Hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions about internships. Um, I see that there are a few people still joining, so we may just wait another minute here to make sure everyone has a chance to jump on. All right, I have 2 minutes after Donna, so I guess we can go ahead and get started to honor everyone's time. Thanks again for joining us, guys, on this internship Q&A. We know you must have lots of questions regarding your internships. Their internships are required as part of your degree plan, but they're a crucial part of your professional development and preparing you for these careers after you finish your degrees. So they're a really important part of what you do here at UTD as part of JSOM. So we'll go over just a few quick slides to talk about some prerequisites and things like that. And then we'll open up the floor to questions. And you please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. No question is too big or too small. We just ask you to be an active listener during the call because we may answer your question before you even have to ask it. So let's make this session fun and engaging, and hopefully we'll get you all the information you need. So I'm just going to share my screen really quickly, and we'll go over a couple of minor details that aren't so minor. They are prerequisites for you to take your internship, and then we'll get ready for your questions. So a couple of things that you need to know if you're on the call. If you're an F1 student, you need to complete 2 long semesters. One must be at UT Dallas. And you must have, if you're a domestic student, you must have completed 1 long semester. You need to have valid F1 status if you're an international student at the time of CPT application. And you need to be currently enrolled in an internship class before you can start. Good academic standing. I won't read all of the things on the slide here to you, but you must have passed the professional development course as well. So Donna, is there anything on this list of prerequisites that you think are the tippy top most important that everyone needs to be aware of? I think you're on
turn
mute.
my microphone
Yeah.
on. MAS 6102, you need to pay attention and you need to pass the class. We've had numerous students fail the class, and then they have to retake it the next semester, which can delay their ability to report in Orion if they have a summer internship. That is a very important one. GPA of 3.0, also very important. Watch your GPA. If you are on academic probation, you're not eligible for an internship. And if you're on if you end up on academic probation after this semester, it won't be released until after your grades for spring are in, and actually several days after that, which once again can delay your start times and reporting options for a summer internship. So those are 2 things that you really want to pay attention to, is making sure you keep your GPA above 3.0 and paying attention in MAS 6102.
Perfect. Thank you. And for those on the call, just so you're aware, all of this information is located on the Career Management Center website that's down at the bottom of the slide, and that Donna emailed you previous to the meeting. So you are able to go out there to that website and read at your leisure all of these important bits of information. These are just ones that we wanted to highlight on the call to make sure that you are aware of. Finding an internship presents a challenge for our students, right? Every semester we hear students that are lamenting over the difficulties of finding an internship. But we do a lot to help you. Make sure, though, you research your companies that you want to work for before you start applying there. Want to make sure they're a legitimate company that is not all interns and no management. Just make sure you know who you're working for. And we have a wealth of resources at the Career Management Center to help you find internships. We have internship fairs, online job portals, all kinds of different places for you to locate your internships. And your peer mentors are also a great place to resource information, find out what they did to help them be successful. Um, so those are things that are important. Make sure that you're trying to network with those people um, and use Handshake and use those resources. The application process is, did I skip a? Nope. The application process is pretty straightforward. Once you find a company that has an internship that you want to apply for, you need to make sure that you have your resume and cover letter properly prepared, use the JSON templates, use the help that CMC provides, and then apply. Yes, it is a good thing to apply to multiple positions, but you want to make sure that you're submitting quality application rather than quantity of application. It takes on average 45 minutes to an hour to prepare an adequate application for an internship or a job. So please don't look at quantity over quality. If you submit quality applications, that increases your chance of getting a good internship by a lot. So make sure you're paying attention to that. Make sure you have the right cover letter, not the one from the last internship that you applied for, and make sure that you're following the templates and that you're using all of the tools that we have to spell check, grammar check, and set it up the right way. And then if you have reached out to have interviews, make sure that you're actually going to those interviews and that you're early to them and that you're following up after the interviews are completed. And it may take a little bit longer to find an internship, but you will. They're there. Also keep in mind when you're doing your research for the companies that you want to apply to, we know we all have our pie in the sky companies that we want to work for, but don't forget there are a lot of smaller businesses that also need IT management individuals. So give those a look. Everyone has IT. You might not find an internship at PwC, but you might find one here at a local company that turns into a career. So don't exclude anyone from your search. Anything you'd like to add there, Donna?
No, just to reiterate what you said at the end. So many of our students get focused on, I have to work for a tech company. You don't. Um, all companies need IT personnel. All companies do data. Construction companies are all project management. Data analysts in healthcare. Manufacturing needs project managers, product managers, data analysts,
Mhm.
engineers. They need, so don't limit your search by saying, I must work for a tech company. Figure out what it is you want to do. And when you're searching, search positions with those keywords in them. Don't necessarily search just by company or even by job title. Search by keywords within the function of what you want to do. And you might be surprised at how many positions are actually available.
Good point. And that's actually the first bullet on this next slide here about securing your internship. Make sure it's related to your major and degree level that's going to give you the best learning experience for what you want to do. So take that advice and search on keyword and make sure it's something that you're passionate about and what you think you want to do. A couple of other important things. Your employer must be a registered business with an actual office location. You cannot work at someone's house. You cannot work for someone that doesn't have a physical address, a physical office. Um, the internships you have are variable credit hours, anywhere from 0 to 3, and we'll talk about those here in a minute. Um, I talked about the actual location, and your internship hours must be worked within the same semester. So you can't work them retroactively. You can't work them in advance. It has to be in the same semester. You must have a supervisor that you report to at your internship. And you also, if you're an international student, must meet CPT requirements for work authorization before you can work on your internship. Um, So those are a couple of things. We'll talk specifics here in a little bit. I'm sure you all have individual questions that we'll go over about that. A little bit more information on the variable credit hours. You do need to report your internship in Orion, and choosing the credit hours for your internship. I'm sorry, a chat question just popped up. Choosing which number of credit hours you take depends on your particular situation, right? A lot of students will choose the initial 0 credit hour internship because you don't have to pay tuition for that. So that's a good thing and it'll meet the requirement. But depending upon how many hours you are going to work in the internship determines the level of semester credit hours that you choose. Um, the important thing on this slide that I wanted to talk about is you cannot quit an internship that you've accepted if you get a better offer. So if you accept an internship for the upcoming semester and then the next day you get a offer that pays you better, you've already committed and it's against JSON policy for you to go and essentially renege on that acceptance because you want the better offer. So please understand that that's against our code of ethics. Another thing that I want to point out is you can't have two jobs at the same time. So if you accept an internship, you cannot have an on-campus job. So please understand that requirement as well. Anything else you want to add, Donna, on this slide before we move on?
No, but very important, before you accept an internship, make sure that is what you want to do. Because I want to reiterate, you cannot leave an internship to get a better offer because you get a better offer. One of the questions you will be asked when you report, it will say, I understand I'm supposed to cease all communications with other employers for this semester. Should you choose to leave an internship, once again, we can't force you to stay in an internship. But if you choose to leave, there are consequences for that. You cannot leave to take another offer. So leaving usually in most cases would be pointless. Plus, you can lose the ability to ever do another internship. So make sure that when you accept an offer, it is an offer you really want to accept and that you're not just taking it because you're feeling desperate.
Right. And there are better ways to handle it than just leaving, right? There are certain circumstances where it is appropriate to ask an internship be ended early. But never in the case do you do that to then take another offer. If you've received another offer that you really want to take, the best way to do that is to work with that employer and say, can I start this internship at a later date next semester? That's the best
Yes,
way to
tell
do
them I
that.
have a commitment I appreciate the offer. I have a commitment that I've made to another employer for this semester, but I am available starting whatever the date is for the next semester.
All right, well, I've left this 0 credit internship up there long enough that I think you probably read through that. Approval and registration. Once you get your offer letter for your internship, that does need to go into Orion immediately. And then once it gets into Orion, it goes through this very long process. We get a lot of questions on I put my offer letter in, can you expedite it? The answer is no. There is a process that it goes through. Once you report it in Orion, it goes over to the CMC Career Center, and the employer is vetted and reviewed and made sure that they're, above board. Then it comes to the program for academic review, and we make sure that it is what it needs to be and is in alignment with the program goals. Then it goes over to advising for you to be enrolled in the correct internship class. And then if there's CPT requests and things to do after that, it goes back to CMC and then finally on to ISSO. So there is a long process for an internship to be approved. It's a little bit shorter for our domestic students, but a complex process for our international students. So I thought it was important to share this graphic with you so that you could see all of the different steps an internship goes through before it's actually approved.
And I would like to verify on step 4, pay attention to step 4. The student is responsible for ensuring course enrollment. Once you've received approval from the program, you will receive an email that tells you the next step is contact advising. I can't count the number of students who want to know why their internship hasn't moved forward when they haven't contacted advising for their enrollment. You are responsible for contacting advising and letting them know which course you want to enroll in. You are not automatically enrolled in a course because there are so many options for credit hours and things like that. You need to make that decision. So step 4 is a very important step.
And it is a complex process. I won't argue that point. It is complex with lots of steps, but that is to make sure that that's to protect our students, and especially our international students when there are so many federal requirements around your visa and CPT. We want to make sure all of those things are done correctly so that you don't have any trouble. So it's really important for you to make sure that you're following all of the steps and that you understand the process so that if there is a question, you know what needs to be done and where it's at. It's not as simple as going out and finding somebody to work for and then going, okay, I'll work for you. We want to make sure that we follow all the rules and regulations so that you have the best student experience you can have. All right, so during the internship, just some pointers. Maintain regular communication with your internship supervisor and your academic supervisor, or academic advisor, me or Ms. Donna, or someone in graduate advising, just to make sure that you're on the right path. Make sure that you're completing your required internship assignments on time and turning them in. That internship requirement is pass-fail. It's not, letter grade. So if you're not turning your assignments in, that is not a good thing. So make sure you keep up with those and you turn those in. And then at the end of your internship, make sure you're seeking feedback and engaging in those, during your internship. As you near the end, make sure you're taking advantage of any additional learning opportunities the company may give you. Really, they're taking this time to train you up and hopefully um, find you something permanent in the end. That's the idea of an internship, that you're being groomed for a full-time position and gaining this experience. So do all you can to learn all you can and network with everyone you can while you're in the actual internship. Post-internship, make sure that you're submitting your final assignments, complete any evaluations and forms that you're asked to complete. A lot of times we like to gather feedback on your experience and on the company that you worked for, so we know whether or not that's a good option for someone else in the future. And then at the end, make sure you're adding that experience to your resume, because that skill building is what you're really doing, and that experience is something that you need to reflect on your resume. And then now I'm just those are a few things that I wanted to run you guys through on the process before we got started on questions. So now the floor is open to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see our lovely faces. And then off you go. All right. Anyone with the first question, just raise your hand or shout it out, and we'll try to make sure that we answer everything.
There was a question in the chat about a student who's working full time.
Okay.
You are allowed, if you have a job that is related to your degree program, you have a couple of options. If you are eligible for an internship, meaning you've completed one long semester and 12 credit hours, you must have done both, and you're within the first 6 months of your current job or position, you can just report it in Orion and use that as your internship experience. If you have been in your position for more than 6 months, then you need to create a special project on your job. And we do have a form that you can complete to do that, and I would be happy to provide anyone with more detailed information on that. Just send me an email saying, hey, I'd like to use my job for an internship to meet my internship requirement. What do I need to do? And I will send you back complete information on that. There was another question for working students. Yes, you can probably have MAS 6102 waived. There is some confusion based on what the catalog says about whether or not you have to take MIS 6009. What there is for the degree is an internship requirement. MIS 6009 is one option for meeting your internship requirement. See, there is a footnote to this in the catalog that apparently nobody reads the footnote, so I'm going to clarify. MIS 6009 is the 0 credit hour internship option. It meets your internship requirement for your degree. It doesn't use any elective credit hours, and it doesn't cost you tuition provided you enroll during the regular enrollment period. The other option is MIS 6V98, which is the 1 to 3 credit hour internship. For students on F1 visas, if it is your first internship and you are not graduating that semester, do not take your internship for 3 credit hours. You have 3 elective credit hours available for internships. Students on F1 visas must be enrolled in an internship course in order to qualify for CPT. If you use all 3 of your credit hours on your first summer internship when you're not graduating till the next spring, you cannot do another internship in the fall or the spring, even if your current employer wants to continue on. So if you have any questions about selection of credit hours, please contact me before you make that decision. Then you also have the option, if you don't get an internship at all, and this applies to our full-time students, if you don't want to do a special project on your job, you do have the option to take the course MIS 6349, Digital Consulting Project, or MIS 6354, which is User-Centric Web Development course. So you can take those courses to also meet your internship requirement. So hopefully that clarified the MIS 6009 question. And for our working students, no, we cannot waive the internship requirement, but we do offer you ways to do it.
Right. We don't want you to quit your job to meet the internship requirement. We do have other opportunities. There was one question in the chat on clarification of long semester for domestic students. Does the 12 credit hours still apply, or does the one long semester rule apply?
They both.
Both. All right.
You must meet both requirements. And long semesters are fall semester and spring semester. So if you are a domestic student, your first semester is fall, and you take 12 credit hours in that semester, you would be eligible in the spring. If you only take 9 credit hours in the fall semester, you won't be eligible until you've completed 12 credit hours after the spring semester.
So just in case you are now confused more than you were before, if you're not sure how many credit hours to take and if you are eligible, please just reach out to us and we will look at your specific situation and guide you through that, okay?
Yeah, there's always multiple options available for everyone, and I'm always happy to walk you through those.
So there's another question about the process for H-4 visa students. The process is the same. It's the same. Whether you're domestic or international, just for international students, there are a few extra steps.
Yeah, for every student goes through the first 4 steps. They report in Orion, it goes to the University Career Center, it comes to the program, you request your course enrollment. For purposes of this, H-4 students are considered domestic students, so you don't need CPT. So once you're enrolled in the course, you're done. Whereas F1 students have the 2 extra steps of getting their CPT and their I-20 updated. But H-4 are considered domestic students for purposes of this.
All right, and we've got an interestingly specific question. FinCot is in their 3rd semester, will be graduating in May 2025. Can I be eligible for summer internship after graduation?
You're not eligible for CPT after graduation. You can do an internship on OPT. But you would have, after you have graduated, CPT no longer applies. CPT is only for students. And you cannot delay your graduation in order to do an internship on CPT following it. So, but OPT does allow you to do an internship. So if you're not able to find a full-time position and you're only able to find an internship, yes, you can do that on OPT. but you cannot delay your graduation to do an internship in the summer, and you cannot do a summer internship on CPT after you have graduated.
Did that answer your question?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry to hop in like that suddenly. Uh, yeah, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you for providing this, the discussion panel for clarifying your doubts. So, can I, with OPT, I will be able to do the internship, right?
If you are have graduated and you are on
Yeah, yeah.
OPT, you can
Mm-hmm.
accept an internship position. Yes.
Okay. 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 All right. That was a question. That's
I'm,
thank
yeah. My advice would be go to the ISSO webpage on OPT, and it tells you all of the various types of employment that you can. There's fewer restrictions on OPT than there are for CPT. CPT is very specific, and while OPT does need to be related to your degree program, there are other
Yes, exactly.
options available out there for OPT, and I suggest you review the ISSO webpage on that.
Okay, okay. So it's just like similar to getting internship with CPT, right? I mean, it's just the OPT. That's it, right?
You really need to review the web pages from ISSO to know the difference. CPT is curricular practical training. It is done as part of your degree plan.
Yeah.
It must, in order to qualify for CPT, it must be part of your degree plan. You must be enrolled in a course. OPT is after you graduate. The program is no longer involved in that process at all. ISSO has a
Okay.
list of the various types of employment that are eligible
Okay.
for OPT, and OPT is actual optional practical training that you can qualify for after graduation. It's to continue, so it must be related to your degree program, but you can work for more than one employer, provided
Oh,
each one meets the criteria. So that's one of the big differences between OPT and CPT. CPT, you can only have one employer.
okay.
So
So,
really check the ISSO web
yeah,
pages on
sure.
both of these things, okay?
Sure. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, do we have any other questions at this point? Feel free to either raise your hand or pop it in the chat window. I see many of you still on, so either you're perfectly clear on this very convoluted process and you have no questions, or you may be a little bashful and embarrassed to ask your question. Please do not feel that way. We are here to help you in any way we can, and no question is too big or too small.
And there's a very good chance I've already heard it from some other student at some point in time. And if you're thinking it, there's a very good chance that someone else on the call is also having the same question.
Mhm. I feel like we may be a little bashful, or we may be eating lunch. So, Donna, what are some of the top questions that you receive very frequently on internships?
Well, one question, and it's because of what it says on the web page, is about remote internships. The web page does say remote internships won't be approved. That's not entirely accurate. That used to be the policy. There were no remote internships, not allowed, never, no circumstances. And then COVID hit. And there was no choice. Everybody was remote. So we do allow remote internships. It does add a step to the approval process. There's a question on there that asks where you will be working. You need to have, if you have an offer letter, it needs to have the company address, and it needs to indicate that this will be remote. It should indicate that there will be regular supervision applied, because that's one of the reasons for an internship is supervision, is that you're supervised. This is not just you're going out, you're getting a job. They're going to say, here you go, do it, and we'll see you in 6 months when you're done. So once you've submitted in Orion, there's questions it will say, is this the address you're working at? You will put in that it's remote. The program will then request a remote waiver. And when your waiver is approved, this is the step it comes between program director approval and advising. Is if there's a waiver needed for remote working, we request it and then you'll get approval. Most of the remote waivers are approved. I don't know that I've ever seen one that wasn't. But I will also say, if it is a local company and they are willing to let you come into the office to do your work, don't request working remote. Go to the office, take advantage of going into the office in that situation, because it will be a much better experience for you to experience the office environment. Some companies have hybrid, those are great because then you get both in company and the remote. So that's something I get a lot, is because the website says no remote. So students panic and ask me, can we do a remote internship?
Okay, what about this one? My employer wants me to start my internship next Monday, and that's what my offer letter says, but they want me to go ahead and come in and start working early so they can train me before I start. Is that okay?
No. Now,
How about that?
well, first question, are you a domestic student or are you on an F1 visa?
I'm on an F1 visa.
Okay, then no.
Why? If I start early, what could happen?
As a student on an F1 visa, your I-20 is your work authorization. It will have the date you are allowed to start work. It will have the date you're supposed to end work. If you work at any point outside of the dates on your I-20, you can be deported.
So moral of the story,
let me repeat that.
please.
You can be deported. You will lose your visa and they will send you home. It's not worth it. And it really is up to you to let the employers know what dates you're able to work. Those dates are listed on the CMC webpage for JSOM. They are listed on the ISSO CPT page. It tells you what is the first date you can work for a semester, what is the last date you can work for a semester. Your internship must fall between those dates. And you are responsible for letting your employer know what those dates are. You also need to know, I said, particularly if it's if you're wanting to apply for reduced course load, you should also know what is the last day to enroll for the full semester, because we had a whole lot of that issue this semester. You need to know what the enrollment dates are. We do offer a second 8-week session for the internship course, which allows you to have additional time, but then you must still be enrolled in another full semester class to meet your F1 enrollment requirements.
Okay, so how about this one? I am a current student that has a job with parking, and I've been offered a non-paid internship. I want to take the internship to meet my degree requirements, but I need to keep my on-campus job. Can I do both?
Once again, are you a domestic student or on an F1 visa?
Let's say I'm a domestic student.
Officially from JSOM, our JSOM policy is 1 employer per semester. But because as a domestic student, you don't need work authorization, you could do both.
But if I'm an international student,
if you're an international student, no, because you would need work authorization. And ISSO, a lot of times when we send over a CPT request, ISSO will come back to the Career Center and say, hey, we have this student authorized to work on campus. So no. Now, keep in mind, if you ask ISSO if you can do an on-campus job and an internship in the same semester, ISSO will tell you yes, because ISSO is only concerned with US government regulations. The US government regulations don't have that restriction. The JSOM regulations, the School of Management regulations, are 1 employer per semester. because we want you to be able to focus on what you are doing. And that brings me to another point that we didn't cover as to how many credit hours you should be taking if you're working in addition to working a full-time job. I have students who ask me repeatedly, can I take 4 classes while working a full-time internship? The answer is yes, you are allowed to do that, but you shouldn't. You really should not try and take a full course load while doing a 40-hour-a-week internship. Usually what the JSOM Career Center will recommend is that you go for a reduced course load and don't take any additional classes. I know for most, so that way you can focus 100% on your internship. I know for most of you, that's probably not realistic. My recommendation is that, yes, you ask, if it qualifies, you ask for a reduced course load, and then you take maybe 2 classes in addition to the internship course. Most of our students who are working full-time take 1 or 2 classes a semester, and they're able to balance that effectively. Don't try and take 12 credit hours, 15 credit hours, and work a 40-hour internship at the same time. It's just really, it's a really bad idea. I've had students who've done it. I've had some who've done it successfully. I've had others who, they did great at the internship and they failed several of the courses, and they did so well their internship, their employer wanted to extend it, but because their GPA fell below 3.1, they can't. So it's a balancing act.
So
And
what
just
if
because
what if my employer wants to extend my internship end date? Can I do the same internship across 2 semesters?
yes, you can. You just need to make sure that you report it for both semesters. If you are on F1 visa, you must report it for 2 semesters. If you're a domestic student, you can just continue working.
What if I have problems during my internship? It's not what they said it was going to be. Who do I tell?
You tell me, or you tell Michelle, or you tell the JSOM Career Center. We are not going to make you stay with an employer that misrepresented themselves. Now, once again, it has to be that the company misrepresented what they were doing, not that you decided you don't like what it is, even though it's what they told you it was. For example, we had some students who accepted marketing analytics positions. Well, instead of doing marketing analytics, they were standing in grocery stores handing out samples. We did not make them stay with that. If your employer says, hey, we're going to pay you $20 an hour, and then when you get there, they say, oh, no, the first 6 months are unpaid. No, they cannot change from a paid internship to an unpaid internship after you accept. Now, if they want to change it from an unpaid to a paid internship, technically that's a change, but my guess is most of you would be willing to go along with that change. But no, I mean, if there's something that was fundamentally misrepresented by the company, some of the consulting companies, they will hire students and then tell them they don't have any work for them because they don't have any clients. Well, that's not a learning experience for you. So yes, we would let you leave that. But before you leave any internship, you need to contact either the program or the University Career Center. Because usually if you contact the Career Center, they will contact us. If you contact us, we contact the Career Center, because everyone needs to know what these employers are doing and what the issues are, and it will involve a conversation. But we don't want you guys to be miserable in internships, but we also need to make sure that you're aware that these are commitments that you have made.
All right, so I asked a series of questions there around the most frequent questions I receive as a program director, hopefully giving you guys some insight into the process. We've got about 20 minutes left, but we won't hold you on the call if you don't have any questions. So at this point, I'll open it up to you guys and say if you have any, if that sparked any questions in your mind that you'd like to ask, please feel free to ask them now.
There is one more question in the chat about companies not considering students for internships after graduation. It depends on the company. I have students that graduated in spring 23 that are currently working on internships. There are some students who will start an internship in their graduating semester and they will continue it in internship format afterwards, and then it may or may not be converted to a full-time job. It really depends on the employer. Once you've graduated, your best option is to look for a full-time job and not an internship. Most of the students that are currently doing internships are only doing it until they can find a full-time job. They're just taking the job that they need.
There's another question in the chat. For spring intake, can we begin an internship in that same summer? No, because you have not met the requirements yet.
Yeah, students on F1 visas must be in the country for 2 long semesters. So if you start in spring, that spring, fall, you would be eligible the following spring.
Do we have any other questions on the call at this point? We're here for you guys, so if you have no questions, we're happy to end the call early and move on with our next task in the day. But we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions. And if you feel that you say we end the call and you have a question later that comes to mind, you are welcome to email that to us and we will make sure to respond to you. But this time is for you guys to make sure that you understand the process and that we answer all of your questions. Hi, Venkat. Yeah, go ahead.
Your microphone's muted.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. I'm sorry. So let's say I got like I said, I'm in my third semester. I'll be graduating May 25. Let's say I got an internship for spring. So do you recommend me to take the course overload and do just the internship and postpone my graduation, or do the coursework with internship and do my graduation?
That would really be a decision that you need to make on your own. I'm happy to discuss options with you. If it is a full-time 40-hour-a-week internship that lasts for at least 11 weeks, it qualifies for a reduced course load. And then you could take 1 or 2 classes with it and maybe push your graduation, but whether or not you want to push your graduation is really up to you. If it's a part-time internship where you're only working 20 hours a week, then maybe you would want to go ahead and take your 9 credit hours of classes to graduate in the spring. How many credit hours do you have remaining? Do you have 9 credit hours remaining?
Yeah, I haven't. No, I have six remaining. I mean, along with the internship.
Okay. You would have several options in that case. If you haven't had an internship or taken one of the alternative courses, and it's your graduating semester, you could do a full-time internship and do it for 3 credit hours and then take 1 additional course and go ahead and graduate in May. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to, you could take a 0, provided you are able to enroll in the internship course for the full semester. If you wanted to, you could take it for 0 credit hours, just do the internship in the spring, and then you would still have your 6 credit hours remaining, and you could either graduate in the summer or the fall. But those are really, you have options on that, and it's really up to you whether you want to use the internship and just do the internship and push your graduation, or whether you really want to just go ahead and graduate on time. Okay, and I'll be happy. I said, if you get an internship, feel free to come and discuss it with me, and I'll be happy to go over all of your various options with you.
Yeah, definitely. Also, how often students get internship in spring? I mean, I've seen that there are many less opportunities for students in the spring semester. So, what's your opinion on that?
I usually have well over 100 students every spring doing internships. Yes, there are more during the summer, but we have students that do internships year round. I have students that have new internships in the fall. I have students that get new internships in the spring.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. It's pretty consistent. We have a large crop of students doing internships. Meet, go ahead. You had 2 questions?
Thank you.
Yes. So my question was my question was regarding internship Internship, which is volunteer work. Like I get a offer letter from one of the startup. They said we won't be able to pay you, but you can do internship with us. So is it can we do that or we can't do that? That's a question for me.
You can do an unpaid internship, but we suggest that you weigh that decision very carefully because your time is valuable.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, some things to consider when you're offered an unpaid internship, particularly with a startup. CPT authorization is all about training. An internship is supposed to be a learning experience. And some of the issues that we have run into in the past with startups offering unpaid internships is the startup has a total of 5 full-time employees and they have 25 interns. That's not an internship. That's unpaid labor. You're not going to get one-on-one mentoring. It's not going to be a fantastic learning experience for you. I'm not saying that you can't have a startup that's an unpaid internship that can be. Once again, if they have 5 full-time employees and you're going to be the only intern, then yes, then you will have frequent mentorship, and frequent contact. But that's one of the things that I ask students to look at is how many full-time employees do they have versus how many interns are they going to have? Because that can tell you right away whether they're actually looking to bring you on to mentor you, to teach you, to train you, to help you, or if they just want you to work for them. Make sense?
Make sure you're making a good decision.
Yeah. So do we need to inform university that are we doing volunteer work over here or not?
Well, it would be on your offer letter that it's an unpaid internship.
If there is a difference if it's a startup company, that would be considered an internship. If you're doing anything that's considered work product, that's considered an internship. You are able to do volunteer opportunities. I mean, if you go to a food bank and you're passing out food, that's considered a volunteer opportunity and that doesn't need to be reported. If you have any questions on whether it can be considered a job or work versus a volunteer experience, talk to ISSO.
Okay.
Make sure you verify it with them, because if you work without authorization, it can cause you serious problems, including up to deportation.
Yeah.
Like I said, volunteer work is usually with nonprofits, and it's things like food banks, or there's all kinds of other
Park
volunteer
cleanup or community center
right.
help.
It's a nonprofit organization, not a for-profit company. For-profit companies don't have volunteer opportunities.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I'm always happy to take a look at any offer letters anyone gets. If you have any questions on anything, I'm always happy to take a look at those. And particularly for our F1 students, if you're not sure whether something's work or not work, run it by ISSO and let them make that determination. Because there are places out there who will say, oh, you don't need CPT authorization for this opportunity, but ISSO has determined that you do.
So we do have a lot of resources available for you. So make sure you're using those. And if you're not sure who to reach out to, then just reach out to me or Donna and we'll get you pointed in the right direction. All right. Do we have any other questions at this point? I see our group has gotten a bit smaller. It must be close to lunchtime.
I guess if they didn't have any questions, they decided they'd go ahead and leave. They didn't need the answers to other people's questions.
All right, we've got a couple more. We only have a few of you left, and we want to make sure that we have answered any questions that you may have. Ashwin, Bhumi, Apurva, Shivani, Ankita, Meet. Any of you have any additional questions at this point?
No, ma'am. I'm done with my question here.
Okay, thank you so much for asking. Any other questions? Going once? Oh, no, thank you for joining. We're happy to be here. Okay, going twice? You're welcome, Shivani. Good to
Thank
see
you
you
so
here.
much. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we're at an end then. Like I said, if you have any questions after this that just come to mind, feel free to reach out to us. We are here for you. Otherwise, we'll say bye and have a great day.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, guys.